right, you guys, welcome. We have Ted Mahr here with us today. Ted, I'm going to let you explain everything you are. I know he's a psychic and he's he has his own radio show, podcast, he has his own channel. So how do you, how do you describe yourself?
Well, thank you for asking. Well, I'm a human. I live in this third dimension, although I try to spend as much time in the fifth dimensions and higher as I can. I also like to go aboard the Pleiadian mothership where my good friend Admiralosaurus is. I've got quarters up there I go to frequently. I also go down to Telos into the hollow earth and see Adama and our friends in Telos. I go a lot into the different dimensions. I'm in third dimension right now only because I have to be here. So here I am. I'm a psychic, a book author. I've been in touch with the other side for about, it's going on 27 years now. My foster mother was a master psychic who worked for the Seattle area police departments. And when they had really tough cases, Nikki, they couldn't find like the solution for, they would give her a picture of a child or a piece of clothing, and she would be able to usually accurately tell what happened to that child. I mean, it was hard work. And the police said, don't tell anybody we're doing this, but we respect you and we want your help. And they would be able to solve many cases that way. She was sort of the unsung hero behind. But back then, that was in the 80s and 90s when she was doing that. And she did it as a matter of service. And they said, the police department said, don't tell anybody this or else we'll lose our jobs. But, nowadays, I think people are more open to it than they were back then. And when my foster mother, Terry, started instructing me on how to do this, she said, keep it quiet because you'll get ridiculed. So, well, I think I still get, once in a while, I'll get that, but not very often. People are much more open and accepting to that nowadays.
So how old were you when you started learning this?
I was, how old was I? I think I was about 40 when I was starting to do that. 40 or 39, 40. I was about that age. It's very interesting what happened to me. I was an attorney for many years. After it took a long time, but I had a lot of clients who wanted me to lie, steal, and cheat for them, and I couldn't do it any longer. And so then I stopped practicing, and then I thought, well, what am I going to do now? And I asked for guidance. And so out of the blue, in a library in the Seattle area, came this homeless man who asked me. He said, Ted, you need to start your own radio show and start writing books. And I looked around, then he disappeared. About 4 or 6 weeks later, another fellow in another library said the same thing to me, came up to me. He said, Ted, you need to start your own radio show and start writing books. And then he disappeared. And I thought, well, these are angels coming to me, Nikki, to give me advice. They answered my question. So then I said to myself, well, I don't know the first thing about radio. My dad used to love to listen to the radio, and I liked radio myself. And so I said, well, how am I going to break into that area when I don't know a thing about it? Well, it turns out I met made a new friend who was good friends with the station manager of a program called KKNW in Bellevue, Washington, near Seattle. And within about 45 minutes of meeting him, I had signed a contract to start my own show. And it was going to be on the paranormal and psychics and UFO subjects. And so I started the show, and it was funny, but when I started the show, it cost money to be on the air, $800 a month. So I paid it. And at the time, I was doing some consulting work, but I didn't have any steady income at all. And I said to my guides, I said, how am I going to pay for this? Now I've got $800 a month I didn't have before, and I still have to have food and rent and everything else. And they said, don't worry about it. We'll cover it. So I formed, basically, this is a nonprofit radio show, and I haven't looked back since either. Within a year after starting my show, about 6 months, my ratings had gotten so popular, the station asked me to do a second hour. So I broadcast on KKNW in Bellevue from all the way from September 13 all the way through July of last year. Mm. When I decided to leave, there was some censorship on the show. They didn't like, I was criticizing the governor of Washington for the way he was handling this pandemic, and the mayor of Seattle, who I really didn't like. There's a lot of problems in Seattle from her poor handling. And so they put pressure on me. And so I decided just to leave. And as soon as I left, all these other opportunities opened up. I'm now broadcasting out of San Francisco on BBS Radio. and I have a huge worldwide audience in over 100 countries. And then I've also been broadcasting out of Vienna, Austria, every other Monday in German and English. And in San Francisco, I broadcast in both English and in Spanish.
But
And
is it the same show? Is it out of this
different.
world? Different shows.
It's the same show, but I have different guests.
Okay.
Yeah, and then I started in August of last year. I started broadcasting in Miami, Florida, on WWNN, but I'm going to be cutting back on that schedule recently, just because I've got lots of irons in the fire. I only have so many hours per. I've been broadcasting like 5 hours, sometimes over that per week.
So I also noticed that I don't know if you're starting or if you have been doing, but you plan on 2021, you're going to be doing some spiritual trips. You're going to be doing some Mount Shasta, and then potentially trips to Peru. So can you talk a
True.
little bit about that?
Sure, Nikki, and you're welcome to come along if you like.
Totally. I totally want to go to Mount Shasta. I've been to Peru. I love Peru and I want to go back, but man, Mount Shasta is on my list.
I've been going to Shasta since 2015, the last 6 years now. I've seen a lot of miracle healings there happen. It's amazing, really. I had 20/50 vision in my right eye for many years. And about 2 years ago, Adama, who's the high priest of Telos, the civilization beneath Mount Shasta, Nikki, came to me in a dream one night and asked me if I wanted a healing from my eyesight. And I said, yes, I'd love one. So he said that I could see spiritually crystal clear now, and he asked me if I wanted to see physically crystal clear. And I said yes. So the next morning I woke up and had 20/10 vision in both eyes. And I could see all the trees around me, and I thought, oh my God, this is amazing. And then 3 years ago, I've been working 24/7 for many years I usually don't take many breaks. And my heart was wearing out. And they asked me if I wanted a new heart. And I said, yes, I'd love a new heart. So they gave me a new heart. So now I'm built for the next 2,000, 3,000 years, easy. It comes with the body parts come with the warranty. So for any reason I want to return, I can get returned and get a new one. But at Mount Shasta, we see a lot of miracle healings. The healings are done by Admiral Halosaurus of the Pleiadian mothership as well. They have a base at Mount Shasta. They're actually above Mount Shasta in the sky, and you can see, and that's where they're usually
Okay,
stationed.
so I have another shaman friend that says that when he went there, he met some Lumerians who also have a base there in the mountains. So and when we say Mount Shasta, are we talking about the little town that's kind of like the Sedona? Are we talking about a particular peak, like the actual mount that is Mount Shasta, or we're talking about the whole entire surrounding area? Like, how's that work? Oh, the surrounding area.
The surrounding area is good. Yeah, let me explain a little bit. I'm a bit of jumping ahead of myself. I get excited when I talk about this. So Shasta itself, there's lots of portals at Mount Shasta that lead into the hollow earth. And but if you're negative or if you're negative or want to do harm to anybody, they won't let you in. They'll close it off. And that actually happened last year. I had agents from a 3-letter agency in Washington, D.C. working for the negatives, who came on my trip, and they started a illegal fire at Mount Shasta in our campground. Then they called the police and blamed it on me in an attempt to get me in trouble. And then they tried to burn the forest down too. So I reported them to the police there at Shasta, but they have polluted the area now, that campground where I was going. I won't be going back there again. There's other portals that I've been told about by Adama that we'll be going into, but that's kind of a sad thing. Once that energy's there, the Telosians and the Lumerians want nothing to do with them. But the city of Telos is about 125 miles beneath Mount Shasta. And they're a 5th dimensional civilization. They don't eat meat. They communicate telepathically. They live to at least 1,000 years. And sometimes they can actually live in their physical body. They can live, it's their choice. They can live for at least 1,000 years and sometimes 25,000 years. And they look just like us. They're a little stockier, blonde hair.
But do they perceive time the same way as we do? Like, does a year feel like a year to them?
No. I'll give you an example. I had a group of about 6 or 7 South Koreans came on my trip in September 2016. And I dropped them off at a place that goes into Telos. And we dropped them off in the morning around 10 a.m. And then I went back to look for them a little later. They were gone. And I knew they were inside the Hollow Earth. They were in the city of Telos. And while they were there, they took a shuttle train to Telos and then to Shambhala, which is a real city,
Agartha.
Agartha, right? They went in, they did a lot of traveling, and then they had small children with them who got scared being in the higher dimension. So they came back. They came back about 8 hours later. And on their watches, it showed that only less than an hour had transpired. But in real Earth time, third dimensional time, about 8, 9 hours had transpired. So time slows down when you're there.
Mm.
Really, it slows down. Other people, I've been going into Telos since August of 2015. And then about 2 years ago, we were at this campsite late one night, and I saw a UFO up in the sky. So I contacted it telepathically. It was the Pleiadian mothership with my good friend Admiral Halosaurus. He's in charge. There's 2.5 million Pleiadian ships right now around the planet. They're helping us with the ascension. So I sent a telepathic message to him. Could you have your mothership go up? And it went up. And then I asked it to go down. It went down. Then I asked it to go left and then right. And finally, I got the message. Enough of this nonsense. He beamed himself down. He's real curious. Who are these Earthlings down there anyway? So he beamed himself down, and right next to the campsite, we could see the ephemeral image of him there next to the campfire. And we had a long conversation. He said that he and his crew had been gone from Alcone, which is where they're from. There's a base there in the Pleiades constellation, and they've been gone for 6 years, and they will stay with us until the ascension is finished. Which, according to the current timeline, and this can be speeded up to the year 2025, where the
So,
entire
how
planet
do
will
you see
shift.
that working? Like, do you see that working like in a physicality? Like, there's actually like a 3D, 5D shift, like something within
Hmm.
our
Hmm.
3Dness changes, or
Hmm.
do you see it more like a gradual just consciousness kind of starts to wake up within people?
What I see, Nikki, is that parts of the planet will shift. Not everything's going to shift at the same time. Mount Shasta now is about 4.6 on the dimensional scale. It will shift in the full fifth dimension within the next couple of months. It'll be followed by Sedona, and then the entire most of Japan will shift into the fifth dimension this year.
What would that
Parts
mean for 3Dness? Like, would they still be able to go there, perceive it, or how would that work?
if you are in a high vibration, you will go into 5D when you're there. If you're a lower dimension, you will fall back into 3D and you will not gain access to 5D. So it's going to be really interesting time right now. But the negatives are being taken out, and they will be gone off the planet by the end of this year. And people who are simply asleep will also be leaving as well until they wake up. There is a lower third dimensional Earth that's been created on the other side of the solar system, and they will negative people, and people who are asleep will be going there for at least 25,800 years, or 1 million Khatun cycle. It's the amount of time it takes for the sun of this solar system to go around the central sun. Unfortunately, years ago, the Galactics told me, my friends in the Galactic Alliance told me that there would be a separation happening now, and I didn't know how it would happen. I didn't know there would be a war or people would be eliminated, but it's happening now with the medicine that people are taking.
Yeah.
And those who take it, 20%, at least 20% will be gone within the year, and 80% ultimately will be gone prematurely from it. They will be separated out. They won't be here any longer. I feel sorry for them. I try to wake as many people as I can up about what's going on. But a lot of them have had soul contracts where they wanted to go through this experience. I still continue to talk about it, but it's kind of like watching Jews going to concentration camps in World War II Germany. They've been told one thing, but they're going to find out a very different reality on the other side after they go through it. But anyway, that's getting back to the shift from 3 to 5D. That's what's going to happen. It's happening right now as we speak.
Well, I actually went to a portal in Colombia. in March of 2020.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't get let into the actual portal, but I did see a unicorn, like a real unicorn with the white horse with the horn in on zero substances. Like it touched me on the shoulder. Okay, here we go. This is
Where did you go?
I
What was
went
the?
to it was called Manoa, and it's yeah, it's in the middle of nowhere. It was like a 2.5 day journey on buses to get to, and like there
Uh-huh.
was like a farmhouse thing. And I had met this, he's the same guy who saw Lumerians in Mount Shasta. I met this shaman guy at a
Uh-huh.
Native American thing, and he was a Colombian, and
Uh-huh.
he's in his late 70s, and when he was younger he got taken into this portal in Colombia, he says, is they call themselves Minoan, but that they
Uh-huh.
are of the Atlantean race. Anyway, so he was gone for what felt like 5 hours for him, but it ended up being about, I think, 3 weeks or something around that when he finally
Mm-hmm.
got back. And he had some interesting messages from that, but basically there's that they were like giant six-fingered blue giants with red
Wow.
hair, you know,
Wow.
which is kind of common saying throughout. There's like a lot of that same tell has been like there's that's been found in like Afghanistan and all kinds of stuff like this same sort of thing.
Yeah.
Anyway, so like I went to see, like, why not, you know. And it was interesting because I do feel like not all of the party we were with was real high vibe. Like there was a couple of really like kind of dark energies with us, and I do feel like that's why we were ultimately prevented from going in. Like that's
That's
what I think.
correct. That is correct. That is correct. I'm
Yeah.
very careful now who I allow on my trips. Everyone goes through a screening process, but if you're interested, it's just $200 per person.
Yeah,
And
that's awesome. That's not bad at all.
yeah, you're welcome. Includes free camping, and just you can go to my website at outofthisworldreadings.com, and all the information's there. So
Cool.
I go
Well, you
for
know, with the inner earth stuff, like I have a couple of people that I've talked to who like there was another girl I talked to she's kind of basically says she went in through Mount Shasta into I think she may have used the word telos. She basically went in through a kind of a meditative state almost. But then Sarata, the Colombian guy, he says you can physically walk in. So I don't know how to perceive that. So yeah, what do you think about that?
well, you have to have their permission to come in first off, and to go into Telos now. I really don't have to be at Mount Shasta, although I like it there, and I just go right in now. I've been going there now for the past 6 years. When I first went in one night, I was in a dream state. It was about 5:30 in the morning, and in my dream state, they took me there. Adama and the people of Telos. And I remember being in this square, and I was surrounded by a bunch of really nice people with these long white robes. The men had long beards, and the women just had long hair. And I talked to them for a while, and I spent a good part of the that early part of the morning with them, and then I came back, and then I woke up, and I said, "Oh my God, I've gone to Telos, which was just amazing." So it's their home, and it's like Telos. I mean, like it's like going to Mount Shasta. If you're negative energy, don't even bother to come.
Hmm.
They don't want you there. You'll be prevented from coming. And if you try to disrupt a trip or do negative things, they'll close off the entrances. They've closed off some entrances now. The Telosians have at Mount Shasta. They're not open right now because of all the negativity from the problems we had from this three-letter agency last year.
So what about what's the relation to Agartha through the Tibetan like head of
I'm glad you asked that
yeah.
because I came in contact with the Agarthans about a year ago, and I was in Peru at the time. We were at the south end of Lake Titicaca at a place called Amaro Muro, which is
Okay,
a
so you went to
stargate.
the Stargate. Okay, cool. I've
Stargate.
wanted to go there. That's awesome. Puma
Yeah,
Punku.
we've been traveling all day. We were coming from Cusco. We flew to Puna, hired a taxi, and drove over there. And it was kind of late in the day, about 5 o'clock. Hadn't gotten dark yet, but it was starting to get, it was going to get dark. And so when we got out of our little taxi, we went to this sheer rock cliff. And as soon as we got out, we could hear children singing, children and young adults. And we thought there was another tour group up there and they're doing some music. Well, we walked up there and there was nobody there. And after about 15, 20 minutes, we realized we were hearing the children from the Gartha singing to us. And there's a seat on this red cliff there, and I sat in it. And what happened is that the rock started turning to jello. And then my
Oh.
friend Tom from New Jersey looked around to the left side of me, and he could see through it. The rock became translucent. You could see into Gartha. And at that very point, we had two condors flying overhead. And then my friend's Pleiadian mothership showed up. We could see it in the skies, very, very clear, huge ship. And I was tempted to stay, but we didn't have any camping equipment, nothing. Because I think we could have gone, they said we could have gone into Garth at that point. But we're going to go back. I'm going back to Peru this September 15th through probably October 10th or 15th. And we're not
Awesome.
only going to go to that Stargate, but I've also got a shaman who's going to take me into another Stargate at Teotihuacan on the Bolivian side of the
Uh,
border, or just over the border from Lake
from Lake
Titicaca.
Titicaca.
Um, a couple of years ago, there was a dispute between Bolivia and the United States after Bolivia claimed that a three-letter agency tried to kill their prime minister from the United States, and they weren't very happy about it, so they were not allowing Americans in. I think
Mm.
it's okay now, so I think we're okay going there now. But I do have a contacts with lots of shamans, so I'll be going there in September. If you want to come, just go to my website at outofthisworldreadings.com. And Peru is a beautiful place. I've been trying to go to Peru since for about a year now, and I've had to postpone the trips each
Yeah.
time. But I'm for one pretty tired of all this. I think there's no basis in fact for it. And
Yeah.
what they want to do, what the negatives want to do, Nikki, is they want to have a permanent police state, permanent, forever. Treat us like cattle, you know, and kill us. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is like when I get down into the dread of that, one of my friends reminded me, she's like, even, but there is always a balance of light and dark on the universe. It's like, even if they want to do that, they're not going to succeed in doing that,
No, I know
you
that,
know?
and I don't want to.
Yeah,
I don't
and
want to
it's,
impress
and
anyone.
it's, I have so many relatives and friends who are on all different sides of the political spectrum or whatever, and that they all think the stuff, but I'm even kind of just going like, you guys, even World War II only lasted however many years it lasted. Even these things that are the darkness of the darkest of the dark doesn't even last forever. So it's like,
No, it's
yeah,
true. It doesn't. And most of the time in human history, even dark regimes don't last that long
mm,
in the greater scheme of things. So this is of all the times of all the years from 2015 to 2030. This is the toughest. Last year, the end of last year, and the first part of this year will be the toughest times in human history right now.
yeah,
That's what I was told. And there's a great separation going on right now. And I hate to say it, well, President Kennedy told me months ago to try to bring as many neighbors, leave no neighbor behind. So that's what I've been trying to do. But
leave no neighbor behind, you say?
leave no neighbor behind.
Okay.
Yeah. But a lot of people aren't going to make it. They're not, I'm sorry, but they're not going to make it. So I've been sad about that. I've been doing a lot of bereavement counseling the last week
Yeah.
from people who've taken the medicine and have died. And now I have to consult the families and I get a hold of them on the other side. And I know my business is going to be increasing here.
So, and that is very, 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 very sad. And
But
yeah,
but I don't want to dwell on it. This is their choice. All you can do with like your radio show, Nikki, and your friends and family, I do the same thing, is try to raise their consciousness as much as possible in a good way and say, look, hey, you got a choice. This doesn't happen to happen to you. Like a psychic. And when I do my psychic readings, that's what I do too. Even if I see something bad for some people, I always give them a choice of what they can do. And yeah, my the main I broadcast mainly out of San Francisco now, but Vienna as well. If you want to see my broadcasting information, my website is outofthisworldradio.net, and you can find
Yeah,
it
and
all
I'll
there.
definitely link that as well in the
Okay.
description.
Okay.
And
Good.
then so you talk about that there was something else about the Galactic Wisdom Conference. Or is that still?
Oh yeah, yeah, that's on fine. Yeah, yeah. I have that
Yeah.
every year. This will be my seventh annual Galactic Wisdom Conference. This
So
year,
are you putting it on, or are you going to
I'm
be a
putting it
speaker
on.
there? You're
I'm
putting it
going to
on
be putting it on.
online or in person, or how's that work?
Both.
Okay, so tell me
Both.
about this.
Okay. All right. Well, I emphasize on having some really good speakers talk about UFOs, extraterrestrials, life beyond this planet. But there's also a healing component, spiritual healing component that I emphasize, and I have a lot of spiritual healers there as well. I usually have people from the Moto office in Tokyo. I'm on the board of directors for the Moto Peace Project
Mhm.
America, and I bring in Haro
Like
healers.
Dr. Emoto, the Secret Life of Water?
Yeah, yeah, right.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Okay,
That's
cool.
yeah, yeah, yeah. After he was murdered by the poisoned by the Chinese in 2014, his work is continuing now with with Michiko Hayashi and the other people in their office. They do a wonderful job. Anyway, they'll be giving a presentation on what's called Haro. Haro is vibration. And according to Dr. Moto, everything was vibration. So that if you change the vibration, if you raise your vibration, you can help yourself with nearly any physical or spiritual condition. So they'll be there. I've invited James Redfield, the author of the Celestine Prophecy, there as well. Myself will be giving a presentation on our beautiful bright future. I wrote a book, oh, it must have been about 2 years ago, on our beautiful bright future. It's called Messages from the Masters. Go to outofthisworldreadings.com and you can click on miscellaneous and you'll see it there. So
You do a presentation where you talk about how people can channel and talk to angels and benevolent ETs, and um so are you, I guess you're actually a channeler yourself in addition to being a psychic. Is that correct?
mhm.
Yeah.
I
And
come
so you teach this skill, or how does that work?
I do. Yeah, I have a spiritual mentoring program where I teach people how to talk to the other side. I've actually written a book in English on how to do that. It was supposed to be published by now. It was supposed to be published by a publisher friend in Munich, Germany, in English and in German last August. But because of all this pandemic,
Yeah.
everything's been delayed. It'll probably be published this year in Germany.
Yeah, maybe you could just self-publish.
I can do that too. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm writing a third book now called Journey to, what was it? Messages from the, it's all about messages from the Pleiadians and the Lumerians on our beautiful bright future. So anyway,
So yeah,
that's
how do you see Pleiadian and Lumerian mergence? Because I've heard they have a connection to each other. So how does that?
yeah,
Yeah.
it's basically the same energy. It's the same energy.
But
Um,
but I mean, I guess Pleiadians are from the Pleiades, and the Lumerians are from our past and on Earth.
right, right. They're from our past on Earth, but the Lemurians' original home was the Pleiades.
Okay.
So that's how the linkage goes. And their capital was in Maui, in Hawaii.
Or Mu, that no longer exists
Or
too.
Mu, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I've got a book I've been reading now called Churchward, about the ancient continent of Mu. Mu was a little further. Where was it? It was, I believe it was west of Hawaii. Yeah, it was west of Hawaii.
Hmm.
But I've time traveled to Lemuria. Beautiful place. I've been to the top of the. I've also been to the physically to the top of Maui and looked down and seen all these beautiful places and everything. It's quite nice. Yeah.
It's so weird when you just even look like the catastrophe that was like 11,600 years ago. Before then, Doggerland was a continent that existed in between England and France that connected English Channel. That was all a whole bunch of land that existed not even that long ago. And same thing with Zealandia. Like New Zealand used to be bigger than Australia. Like there was like a huge amount of land mass that connected to the, I mean, our geography has changed so much, even in just like 12,000 years.
Yeah,
It's
it's true.
crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, it
And
has.
we always have this sort of I mean, don't speak for myself, but like a lot of people always have this view that how the land looks now is how it's always looked, and that's just not the case.
I interviewed a guy named George Smith on my radio show a couple weeks ago. He was so good. I gave him 2 hours, 2 different interviews.
Mm.
In his autobiography, he's been in contact with benevolent extraterrestrials for the past, I think 30 or 40 years. And his autobiography was entitled "Life in a Fishbowl on Earth." Because for most people, they live within this fishbowl because they don't see outside of a certain parameter of what life is really like. And but he says that's changing now. People are waking up. But that's what he said. It was very interesting hearing him talk like that. That living on this planet was like life in a fishbowl.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense actually.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And it's hard too because if you believe that there's other stuff going on, you almost have to, tread who you say that to, which is
Yeah, I
just
know it. I
crazy.
know they'll take it as an insult, and it's not really. Everyone's got a different vibrational frequency, Nikki, and we're all here for purpose. This is like a big Earth school to learn things before you ascend into the higher dimensions. So,
Well,
it,
I was wondering one more. Okay, in relation to the Telos or the inner Earth and the Hollow Earth theory and all that, which I'm super fascinated with the Hollow Earth theory. I mean, I have like a big document that I've compiled of any different story that I feel like has anything to do with whether it's like the Hopi Indians being taken into the Grand Canyon area by the ant people and living 1,000 years underneath the earth to while there was flood, or whether it's there's tales of Norwegian men who got through a portal through the North Pole into a hole, or Admiral Byrd who goes down through the South Pole, or you have Tibetan Agartha stories. Like whatever it is, there's so many of these stories of
Mhm,
people
mhm.
coming from inside the earth. There's this plane, and then there's like astral plane and etheric plane, energy plane. There's other dimensions for sure. We don't really know what we even on. The farthest we've drilled down is like not even that deep. And we
No,
assume that the assumption that it's still a theory that the earth is iron. That's not
yeah,
necessarily true.
that's true. I've been told by my friends in the Hollow Earth that the whole Earth, Nikki, is full of hollow caverns, and that's where the Lemurians have been. Actually, the Lemurians have been there since about 12,500 years ago. And what happened at that point is that the Atlanteans, a small military and civil clique, destroyed much of the planet with nuclear and crystalline weapons.
Hmm.
And so when their civilization was destroyed, they didn't have much time. They were able to get 25,000 people and all of their technology into these caverns underneath Mount Shasta. And they've been there now for over 12,000 years. And they generally have stayed to themselves. They've started coming up to the surface now. And within the next couple of years, as we shift into the fifth, we will meet their vibration and we'll be able to see them physically in this new fifth dimensional state.
Yeah, the Atlantean portal that I went to was a breakaway. It was almost like a breakaway civilization from the other Atlanteans. That they also claimed that there was a Lumerian Atlantean nuclear war, and that there were people who didn't agree with it who broke away and had another civilization underneath. And there's a couple, they say, over spread out throughout the planet. Like, so not all of the Atlanteans and not all of the Lumerians died.
Okay, that makes sense. Is that Manoa where you saw?
Yeah,
Was that the breakaway? Okay, that would make sense that they're still there today, even.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
So crazy. I love all this stuff. It's
yeah.
just
Uh-huh.
like this is
Cool.
my jam. Um, I'm also into ETs and stuff too, but
Hmm.
um
Hmm.
so the Bigfoot, do you think that they are I've heard a lot of different theories about Bigfoot, but what is their connection with Mount Shasta?
They live there. It's their home. I've seen them.
Okay. So do you think that they are fifth dimensional? Do you think they're ET? Do you think like they're like what do you think they are?
There's 4 subspecies of Sasquatch. The ones who look like us have very fine fur over their body, but otherwise they look just like us. They're called the ancient ones.
Uh,
And they were an attempt by a benevolent, advanced fifth dimensional human civilization to create a hybridized species to jumpstart evolution on this planet. They've been here for about 400,000 years. They're older than the Atlanteans. The Atlanteans were here about 200,000 years. They were another ET civilization. But the Sasquatch hid from the Atlanteans because they thought that the Atlanteans were they did try to kill them. They tried to, because they wanted the Earth for themselves with no other competition. Of course, the Atlanteans ended up destroying themselves. The Sasquatch are very benevolent. They've actually, in September 2017, I had a lady named Tammy from Minnesota on my trip at Mount Shasta, and she came in late one night. She stepped in her van, and the Sasquatch surrounded her van completely. And while it was surrounded, they asked if she wanted a healing. She'd been crippled for the last 20, 30 years. And she said yes. So what happened then is that an ET craft from the Hollow Earth came over her van. They shot a beam of light into the top of the van. The van opened up. She was beamed up aboard the van, given a new pair of legs, put back in the van. The top of the van was sealed up again. She woke up the next morning, and when I saw her, she was running around screaming at the top of her lungs, "They healed me. They healed me. They healed me." And I thought at first that she was on drugs. And I said, "I'm sorry, Tammy, you can't use drugs on this trip. You'll have to leave." She said, "No, no, no, I'm stoned or high or anything. I haven't drinking any alcohol. They healed me." And I said, "They healed what? And who's they?" And she said, "The Sasquatch and the Lemurian and the Telosians, they healed me." So she threw her crutches away and her wheelchair away, and amazing story. She's fine today. Yeah,
Wow.
true story.
That's
True
yeah,
story.
that's well, sign me up. I'm going. I would have
Right.
I
Well, just
have
let me
been
know. Just let me know.
it's so weird. I have been hearing the name Mount Shasta, Mount Shasta, Mount Shasta, and I've to go to Mount Shasta, Mount Shasta for years. And like I've planned at least 4 trips in the last 4 or 5 years that have last minute gotten canceled. You know,
Well, it wasn't the right time for you to go yet. There will be a right time, I think, this year. The negatives are being forced off the planet, and all of them will be gone by the end of this year.
that's that's good.
And unfortunately, it also includes people that are clearly asleep, who don't want to evolve. They're not necessarily bad. They're good people, but they just are totally asleep, and this will wake them up.
I know a
Unfortunately,
lot of those people. um,
yeah,
and I'm related to a lot of those people, and I love a lot of those people.
sure.
But
Yes, yeah,
and I have had to come to the I guess kind of realization that yeah, I know we're all like different aspects of creation, and that maybe that's what they're wanting to experience. That's
sure, right, exactly. Yeah.
like we all have the internet, we all have access to, or most of us, I mean, we all have the ability to learn and believe or disbelieve whatever we want to.
Mhm,
So,
mhm.
everybody's choosing the path that they want to choose.
Well, I have to tell you, you're a star child from the Pleiades who came down here with a mission to assist in the ascension of the consciousness raising of humanity. So, and I appreciate your work so much.
Thank
Um,
you.
yeah, yeah, because actually, according to Nostradamus, we were supposed to shift into the fifth dimension by the year 2038, 17 years from now. But
Mm,
we're shifting now. We're about what, 17 years early, 17, 18 years. The process started actually back in 2016. In September 2016, what's called the Schumann resonance, which is the frequency of this planet, doubled from 7.8 hertz to 13.8 hertz. And it went up to
it's off the charts. It's like 70, 60, 40, 100, like all the time.
well, yeah, last week actually, week before last, it was 6,000 hertz. They measured it in Italy,
Oh wow.
and it's now at 8,000 hertz.
Wow. Yeah, I usually try to keep up with where it's at, like every day. Yeah. And so what do you think the ringing in the ears is then? Because I sometimes I don't know if that's related to like our electronic pollution,
Sure.
or if that's related to something
You're getting
speaking to you.
downloads. This is a Lemurian crystal I get from Shasta. It's been blessed by the priests of Telos. It's full of love and light. This is a tuning fork. It's a 528 hertz tuning fork full of love energy. So when you hit this Lemurian crystal with this, you spread love everywhere.
That's awesome.
Nice. Yes. Love energy everywhere. Also, I wanted to tell you real quick, this is my book. I published a couple of years ago, Messages from the Masters. If you want a copy, just send me an email to outofthisworld 1150 at gmail.com. And I want to tell you too, one of my newest projects has been cleaning up Fukushima. Well, I've been asking people on my radio show every week now since mid-December to clean up Fukushima. And I'll tell you how we do it. We
Okay.
do it through prayers. And I'll share a prayer with you. But what Dr. Emoto did back in 99, he took a bottle of radioactive water from a nuclear power plant in Japan, and he wrote the words love and gratitude on the bottle of water. And he put this crystal, this picture of this crystal. This is Messages from Water, the children's book that we also sell. The crystal itself is a crystal of what water looks like when you write love and gratitude on the bottle of water. It's beautiful, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
So he put a picture of this crystal with the words love and gratitude on a bottle of water. And this is what the radiation looked like on the molecular level before and after. This is before he put this that love and gratitude crystal. It looks like amoebas, okay,
Mm-hmm.
full of radiation. Within 48 hours, all the radiation was gone, and you had this instead, this beautiful crystal here. And the radiation was gone and drinkable afterwards.
Yeah.
Now TEPCO, Tokyo Electric Power Company, has a plan by the end of the year to dump 1 million tons of extremely radioactive water into the Pacific Ocean, because they believe that the solution to pollution is dilution.
Yeah.
I disagree. So my friends and I have been not only doing prayers every week, and I want to do a prayer with you quick, but we've been also, she's been a friend of mine, Dr. Libby Rutledge out of Montana, has been using a special Hado vibrational machine with a picture of Fukushima. And what she's done is that she's been sending love and light and positive vibrations to Fukushima, and she's been able to get uh, uh, decrease the radiation by 80 and 90%.
Wow.
Using her measurements on a scale of 1 to 10, the radiation of Fukushima, she said, was a 7, and she's able to get it down to 1 now.
Great.
So it's amazing when you think about it. So I'm going to be getting a hold of TEPCO, Tokyo Electric Power Company, this week, because I want their scientists to calibrate and confirm our own measurements from here. She's been measuring it remotely using her Hado machine. She has a special vibrational Hado machine. The prayer that we do is very simple. It's called the Ho'onopono from Hawaii. And Dr. Moto used that prayer to help heal people. And it does work too. It goes something like this: water, we're sorry. There we go. You can sort of see it here. Water, we're sorry. Water, please forgive us. Water, we thank you. And water, we love you. And what we do in my prayers every week has been when I'm on the shows in San Francisco, I've been saying this prayer and sending lots of love and light to Fukushima, and it has been cleaning it up. And it does work too. One thing I wanted to share with you quickly is with my book, Messages from the Masters, when people order it from myself, I give them a free reading. Plus, they get a copy of this newspaper article here. This is a New Zealand article published on November 23rd in 1963 in New Zealand. It was published while President Kennedy was still alive.
Wow.
Yeah, because what happened is that entire Kennedy assassination was a conspiracy, and Vice President Lyndon Baines Johnson ordered all the U.S. embassies around the world to release this fake story about Oswald shooting Mr. Kennedy on November 22nd when he died. And they did that in Auckland, New Zealand. The problem is that on November 22nd in Auckland, New Zealand, it was actually November 21st in the United States. So it was
The wrong day, right?
it was the wrong day. Yeah, yeah. So anyway, that's what I know. So anyway, yeah.
Very
Yeah.
cool. Very cool. Well, is there anything that you wished I would have asked you that I didn't get to ask you?
No, what I like to emphasize with people is how to make this world a better place. So that's what I like to talk about. And I want you to know that we're all powerful spiritual beings meant to create a much better and happier world. And I know if we all work together, we can create a much better and happier planet. We have a beautiful, bright future ahead of all of us. And to stay strong and know that there's better times ahead of us for all of us. But we have to stand up for our rights now because they're being taken away. and but know we have a beautiful, bright future, and I hope everyone will join me. And I want to thank you so much too, Nikki, for all your beautiful work, because you're all helping to make the planet a better place. So that's how I look at it.
Thank you so much, Ted. That was great.